Alright, this is reflection number 4 for writing in schools. Today I really want to talk about the students that I've worked with over the past couple of weeks, as mentioned in the previous reflection, and sort of where their stories have gone the past couple of weeks. And also I want to talk about some of my writing. And then I guess I was thinking about some of the things that I would continue or maybe add to the class to further the education process for the mentors and the students in the class. The first person that I'm going to start talking about is Daryl. I talked about in the last reflection how he was just someone who's really full of energy, full of life, who's really pursuing his passions well. Sometimes he can get distracted or off topic with all the stuff happening in the classroom. But I just wanted to say that it's been really cool to see him develop in the class, how his writing has gotten stronger, and how he uses his poetry and morphs that into his hip hop and rap music that he transforms and will play for some of the mentors and you, Professor Speckman, off of his phone. So that's really fun to listen to. He's pretty talented and definitely has some bars. I know that I really have liked some of his music that's a direct reflection off his favorite artists, where he goes and talks about different albums and their creative styles, so that's been really interesting. And it's always fun to just have Daryl go up to the front of the class, and one of my favorite things is how the students convey themselves when they are in front of the class like that. Daryl will, flip on his hoodie, and so will Jared and Carlos when they go up sometimes. Like the little bit of, gives them a little bit more power, or their face is a little bit more hidden when they're telling their story. So I always like to see the different quirks that the students come up with to empower themselves when they go up and speak. So that's always fun to see, and Daryl's definitely one that will flip on the hoodie sometimes, but whenever he has a message, he makes sure he brings it to the class, so that's really powerful. And another thing about his work that I really enjoy is just how concise and to the point it is. Some of the students, can ramble a bit with their poetry, which is fine, but it's nice to have some refreshing, concise work that just gets straight to the point, which is nice to see. The second student I wanted to talk about was then Carlos. He has, I think, a narrative for Carlos's semester so far has, coming to the creative writing club, for fun, to maybe not go home right away, and just sort of maybe hang around with Jared and me and some of the mentors. But a couple weeks ago, when Jared wasn't present, he actually wrote a story based on the prompt, which was cool to see. I'm not sure if you, Professor Speckman, were there, but he came up with an elaborate sort of Dora Boots story that contained a lot of explicit words, but it was really funny to have him go up there and finally, not funny, but funny to hear the story and then have him go up there and tell it for the first time. It was really cool, and a lot of students really laughed at it and enjoyed it, so I'm trying to encourage him to continue to create this work and share it with the class, because I feel like everything that students or mentors bring to the table, people enjoy, and there's not really any criticism for any sort of work, which is really valued in the classroom, which is cool. So I think encouraging Carlos, the next couple of weeks and then into the next semester to continue writing is really important. As he goes up there and continues to gain confidence, I think that's huge for him. For a student, he often talks about how he doesn't care about his classes. It's cool to have him care about something, which is really important. Lastly, I wanted to talk about Jared. I know in the past couple of weeks he's had some sort of difficult family trauma, so he's been writing about that lately, which has been pretty crazy to see. Someone really express themselves through their work and then open mic. It's definitely been harrowing to hear some of those stories. And then, I think it has been a pretty good outlet for Jared to go up in front of the class and talk about it, um, which has been really cool. And then thinking about that, I wanted to talk about, which I'm just remembering, um, when the counselors came into the classroom. I thought that was it was a cool moment to have them come in and talk, but it was incredible how distant those counselors seemed from the students, and even to me it seemed like they were sort of, I don't know, unapproachable. It would have been nice to maybe get to know them a bit. They just sort of presented, and then the students sort of came away with a feeling of, at least from my table, maybe some students connected with it. I came away with a feeling of just kind of like, they can't really relate to my problems. Um, so I think it would be cool if they come into classroom situations like that to try to connect with the students a little bit better, rather than sort of sitting on a stage. I think it's hard to, see them on a stage and then go in and talk to them about your problems like that, because you don't really have that sort of personal connection, which can be difficult. I don't think there's like a great solution to it, and I think it's awesome to have the counselors come in there, but I think there is sort of that stigma around receiving help for mental disorders that keeps that distance and divide. So any way that you can close that would be key for having those students go in to talk about some of the problems in their lives. But I think it was definitely good to have them come in there and talk, but I wish there was a way that you could have them connect a little bit better, because it seemed like they were just sort of distant and removed during their presentation. Not to criticize anything around that, because I think it's awesome to have them come in there and speak, but that's just sort of my view on that whole presentation. But like I said again, it's really hard with the whole stigma around mental health, having them come in there to talk. And so I was talking about Jared, and once again, I want to reinforce that I think the open mic is a really cool, creative moment for all the students in the classroom. And I think, honestly, that's one of the best parts of the entire class, and it's something that I really look forward to every day when I'm going into the schools, just being able to hear the students talk and, vent some of their angers and also air some of their really incredible works. Um, it's awesome to see a student go up there and gain more confidence through and through. And that's definitely been the case with Jared being able to air some of his grievances. And he also, comes in and maybe he isn't the most focused. He talks and chats, and then he sort of razors down into his work and really concentrates and just can write out a really good poem in like 5 minutes. So much more than anything I could ever do. So that's been really cool to see him, just how concise he is with his work and getting his emotions out on the paper. It's really awesome. And then I think the last thing I wanted to talk about was sort of one thing that I think would be really beneficial to add to this class. I'm from Michigan, so I'm not used to the public school system in Indianapolis, but I think it would be cool at the start of the class, just like a 20 or 30-minute presentation on sort of the state of Indianapolis public schools, and also the variety of options in the area and the different high schools, how they're perceived, the different problems facing each one. I think that would be really beneficial for the students in our writing class, to sort of understand what's going on in the different high schools and become more knowledgeable for when entering the schools, and to know more about the school system around here. So that's sort of my one thing that I'm airing out that could be added to the class. But I think that's about it for Reflection 4. Thanks for listening.